Hey everybody, what's up? Cooper Stuff 10-minute talk. All right, listen. Everybody gets canceled up in here. Everybody gets canceled up in here. A lot of weird things going on. Look, it's time for us to start putting our money where our mouth is. What I mean by this is this. You get to vote, and I'm not talking about politics. You get to vote by what you spend your money on. That's how you vote. That's how you have a say. And I think that it's time for not just conservatives, but even people in the middle, people that consider themselves kind of be in the middle, even center left, okay, center right, Christians, conservatives. It's time for us, I believe, to start voting by what you spend your money on. I think it's worth looking at. We're in a time where people are being canceled depending on their political beliefs, their Christian beliefs, things like that. Now, before I jump into this, I know, I'm well aware of it, that it's the right that talks about cancel culture, and I do know on the left that the left kind of views cancel culture as either A, non-existent, or B, not like a big deal, C, overwrought, like conservatives are making all this big hay out of nothing, or they're complaining. Their victim is victimhood, cancel culture, victimhood. Whatever. Or the left views it as maybe even a net positive, even like, hey, this is actually good because we're holding the world to account. There are things that just shouldn't be said in this culture, and we're holding the world to account. And I hear you. So if you're on the left, I don't want you to think that I'm uber complaining about cancel culture. I'm going to try to meet you in the middle. We're holding people to account. Here's what I would challenge you on, especially for my Christian followers. Here's what I would challenge you on this. If we're going to hold people to account in culture, if we're going to have a culture of that, the question is that what is the basis of our law? Meaning your ideas of justice, your idea of righteousness. In other words, holding them to account based on what? What is the God behind your idea of justice? We have to look at that. And when I say the God, that doesn't have to be big G. Okay, my God is big G. That's what informs my ideas of laws and justice. But you can be an atheist and still have a God behind your law. God with a little g, right? That your God behind your law could be man's inherent goodness. It could be natural law. It could be chaos. It could just be self, whatever you want to call it. There will be something behind your ideas of justice and law, which informs it. We're going to go back to that in the end, because I think a lot of Christians don't get taught this and don't exactly understand it. So I hope to encourage you into that. It is time for us to understand what's happening with cancel culture and to begin putting our money into things that we believe in, people that have our kind of values. And by the way, I'm aware that this is oddly self-serving. I'm not trying to be that way. I'm going to make an argument, see if you agree with me. Cancel culture. We have an unequal distribution of canceling folks. A lot of people don't even know that Nick Cannon was fired from his job 6 months ago. A lot of people don't even know what he said. We're going to look at some of the things he said, the reason he lost his job.
When we talk about the power of melanated people, when we talk about who we really are as gods, and understanding that our melanin is so powerful and it connects us in a way that the reason why they fear black, the reason why they fear is because the lack that they have of it. So when you have a person that has the lack of pigment, the lack of melanin, that they know that they will be annihilated. So therefore, however they got the power, they have the lack of compassion. That melanin comes with compassion. Melanin comes with soul, that we call it soul. We soul brothers and sisters. That's the melanin that connects us. So the people that don't have it are a little, and I'm gonna say this carefully, are a little less. And where the term actually comes from, because I'm bringing it all the way back around to Minister Farrakhan, to where they may not have the compassion or the when they were sent to the mountains of Caucasus, when they didn't have the power of the sun, that the sun then started to deteriorate them. So then they're acting out of fear. They're acting out of low self-esteem. They're acting out of a deficiency. So therefore, the only way that they can act is evil. The only way they have to rob, steal, rape, kill, and
fight or flight,
in order to survive.
Exactly.
So then these people who didn't have what we had And when I say we, I speak of the melanated people.
Right.
They had to be savages. They had to be barbaric. Because they're in these Nordic mountains. They're in these rough, torrential environments. So they're acting as animals.
Right.
So they're the ones that are actually closer to animals. They're the ones that are actually the true savages.
Okay, so obviously that's a lot of really bad stuff, a lot of racist stuff against white people. He said a lot of other things that I didn't play that were anti-Semitic, okay? Now, what he really got in trouble for, the things that were covered on the news, not that this was covered on the news to an uber degree, by the way, but it was covered, but it was only the anti-Semitic comments that were covered, based kind of on a philosophy that being hateful towards Jews is bad. Being hateful towards white people isn't really near as bad. That's kind of the idea. So the anti-Semitic stuff is what he kind of got in trouble for. And at first he wouldn't apologize for it. And in fact, he had people come out and defend him. Charlemagne the God defended him on it. There was a rapper who also offered him a job afterwards. Like, come work for me anytime. I think it was Puff Daddy, but I can't be sure of that. So I don't want to go Google that. Don't let me ruin someone's name if it's not true. I can't remember. Somebody like that, okay? The point is that he did lose his job for that. And he came out and apologized for his anti-Semitic remarks, not for the overall larger picture of the white remarks that I recall. Well, here we are 7 months later, and a lot of people are unaware that he got his job back. He's going to be back on VH1, Wild and Out. In fact, they are going to be reposting the older episodes. At first, they said we're canceling the older stuff to get, wipe it clean. Now they're posting that stuff back 6 months later. So that's what happens when you are on the left and you get, quote, canceled. I never called for his cancellation, by the way. I don't like cancel culture. I just figured, hey, if he said a bunch of racist stuff against white people, then I just won't listen. I'll put my money where my mouth is. I'm not going to watch that stuff, right? I never called for that. Well, take that example, because when that happened, a lot of people on the left were saying cancel culture has come for Nick Cannon. Well, let's see if the standard is the same, okay? In other words, on the right, if some Christian or conservative came out saying really white supremacist stuff, that white people are born inherently better or higher or more supreme than black people, I don't think certainly not Christians and conservatives would be defending that person saying that and calling it cancel culture. I think they would say, yeah, it's just way over the line. Either way, what we all saw here in the last couple weeks, everybody's aware, Gina, how do you say it? Carano? I think Carano, I say that correctly, has now lost her job from Disney Plus. Now, what she did was she basically sent a tweet saying that it wouldn't have been possible for the Nazi guards to do what they did against Jewish people if there wasn't a culture that had made Germans hate Jewish people. Kind of what she's basically saying is this, that they had a culture of hate and a culture of racism and so on and so forth that made it possible for the Nazi guards to come and round them up in huge groups and do this horrific stuff. All right. So that's basically what she tweeted. But she made a conflation between that and what is happening in American politics now with the left and the right, saying basically, I think her point basically, that the left hates the right to a degree that it is going to make it easier for the government to stamp down on conservatives, okay? Most people would agree that that is insensitive because she's not saying that she hates Jewish people. She's not saying anything bad about Jewish people. She's not saying tropes like the Holocaust is a conspiracy and it never happened or anything. She's not saying any of that stuff. It's insensitive because you're taking a truly horrific event, one of the world's most horrific events in history. And what you're saying is that, yeah, what we're experiencing now is kind of like that. Most people would just say that's a no-no. That's insensitive, something you shouldn't do. But she wasn't saying something actually hateful towards a group of people. And Ben Shapiro covered this really well. I use Ben Shapiro as an example because he's actually Jewish. He's a practicing religious and, I forget what you call it, Jew. All right, so the point is he covered that really well. The point is that there's not really a conflation between these two things, between Nick Cannon and what Gina Carano did, in my opinion. I think in most people's opinion. Even if there was a conflation, look at the consequences. Nick Cannon lost his job for 6 months, and he's come back. Okay, all is forgiven, and we're done. Gina Carano's lost her job from Disney Plus. Hasbro has announced that they are yanking her toys off the shelf. She will never work in mainstream movie cinema again. That will never happen again. Because if she does, then the companies that hire her will then get canceled, because that's the way that actual cancel culture happens. You have to disassociate from all the evil people in order to gain your righteousness back. You have to virtue signal in that way. She'll never work in that again. So I'm not complaining about cancel culture. I'm saying there's actually inequity. And see, I'm using the word because the left loves to use the word equity. There's inequity in the consequences of cancel culture. Am I here to complain about it? No, I'm not even complaining about it. What I am saying is this: we need to be aware of what's going on so we can put our money where our mouth is. Vote. And I'm not talking about voting for president or voting for senate. It's about vote with your money. Vote with what you want to spend your money on. And if there are people that are making films that are getting canceled for their conservative beliefs or their Christian beliefs or whatever that may be, then why not support that art? Why not support that entertainment? Why not support those companies? Fill in the blank. I've never said stuff like this before because it's so self-serving. It's so like, hey, support me because I'm a Christian. I don't actually like that. The problem is that that's the game that's being played right now on the left. That's the game. How are we to fight back against that sort of thing? I'm not even complaining about it. I'm not saying we're victims. I'm saying there's a lot of us out there, guys. Why don't we do something about it? Why don't we support Gina Carano in her next film? I believe that she's going to be making a film with Daily Wire, their service, whatever it's called. Why not support it? Why not support Christian music? Why not support Christian films? So on and so forth. This is the game that's being played, and we all get to vote. So for me, instead of complaining about cancel culture, I'm just going to encourage you to vote by what you spend your money on and open your eyes to see that cancel culture is obviously real. And what's behind it is this, and a lot of my Christian liberal friends don't understand this, that whoever you want to cancel is going to be based on what you believe to be morality and justice. What do you base morality, justice, righteousness, law? What do you base that on? You base that on your God. That could be big G. That could be little g. We'll talk about this in a longer podcast. I'm trying to blitz through this right now. The Christian left needs to understand this. That I think that they believe that basically Christians and atheists and agnostics and anybody in between, that we all have basically the same ideas of justice. And that is not actually true. Now, we may have a lot of things in common in America because America was based our law system on Judeo-Christian ethics. So it was kind of in a lot of ways based on a Christian worldview in Judeo-Christian law in a certain sense. So because of that influence, yeah, a lot of things we agree on. But once you take Judeo-Christian law and ethics away, then we're not going to agree on a whole lot of things. It is not the case that men in general and mankind is all going to agree on justice and law. That is actually not a biblical principle. It depends on who your God is. And if your little g God is self or natural, if you say, well, it's just natural, well, what you're saying then is natural law is the God. And the tenets of natural law as they stand right now, well, there's nothing absolute about that. There's no absolute right and wrong about any of that. Plus, it's evolving because natural law is based on Darwin's evolution at this point. So it's all evolving. So that means that morality is evolving. Justice is evolving. So who we cancel next year will be different than who we cancel this year. Christian left, my Christian friends, I'm trying to win you over and trying to be mean to you. The woke, you need to understand that whatever your God is will depend on what you think justice is. And if you think that we're all going to end up in the same place, the secular atheist utopians and the kingdom of God, we're all going to believe in the same justice. That's not actually true. So I hope this encourages you. I'm not complaining about cancel culture. Let's just vote with what we spend our money on. Hope you have a great week.